Hello, everyone. People often aspire what if the hindsight wisdom could be available to them as a foresight? So much of difference it would have made in their life and in their ability to make better decisions or even exercise appropriate choices. But that doesn't seem to be feasible. However, those leaders who are able to traverse this journey with ease and remarkable consciousness will surely have the perspectives to offer and address such aspirations. And that is why they earn the privilege to be included in the pool of legends or considered as legendary leaders. Friends, what enables people to become legends? How do they become legendary? And what legacy do they establish or leave behind to leave a kind of trail that becomes a benchmark for others to follow? Either follow or borrow, but some pathfinders they do that job with remarkable ease. Since we don't have the luxury to acquire the hindsight wisdom on our own, we can surely look to learn from those who have this ability to actually put perspectives to us so that we can learn from them. And they already acquired this stature to be considered as legendary and have established themselves as legends. These days when people wake up, before leaving the bed, they rush to look for their most important device. And I know what is that device. That is mobile phone. While Nokia might have launched its iconic connecting people slogan in 1992, it was a prominent Indian multinational telecommunications services company that provides the mobile telephony, broadband, DTH, and financial services across 18 countries in South Asia and Africa. Any idea which company I'm referring about? All right, let me give you a clue. The telecommunication giant throughout its history has used several memorable taglines to connect with its customers. Few that gained tremendous eminence and prominence are Express Yourself, their most iconic slogan, which became deeply embedded in the Indian pop culture during the early 2000s. Next, Live Every Moment, launched in 2002 alongside the famous A.R. Rahman musical theme to celebrate the endless possibilities of technology. And another one, Airtel is Airtel Bajega to Tarakki Bolegi, a localized campaign used to signify that ringing phones drive business growth and progress. And currently, the global brand slogan is a reason to imagine. When I think of the word imagine, I remember John Lennon's song Imagine, but there are different companies and leaders who have used this imagine or imagination to inspire growth, scale, and impact. And it's basically to inspire the youth and inspire them to embrace new possibilities. Now the picture must be getting quite clear about the company that I'm speaking about. Yes, it's one and only Airtel that launched the cellular services in India on September 27, 1995, starting in New Delhi. The company was officially incorporated as Bharti Cellular Limited, now Bharti Airtel Limited, earlier that year in July 7, 1995. Can this level of growth, scale, and impact be achieved without leadership excellence? I don't think that's possible. I often consider three foundational pillars are leadership, strategy, and culture. And it is this curiosity and passion to unravel the truth that prompted me to invite our legend today for this episode of Journey of Legends. He's a passionate, purpose driven person who's known for his path breaking pursuits. He is widely characterized as a disciplined, high energy and transformational business leader. Colleagues and industry peers describe him as an introspective and humble professional who blends deep technological acumen with a strong commitment to physical fitness, continuous learning, and ethical corporate governance. Which company and organization does not need that? His distinct personality and leadership traits encompass five key dimensions: positivity and energy. He is known for his boundless optimism, actively nurturing star teams with a high energy approach to both business and everyday life. Discipline and fitness. He's a dedicated health enthusiast who emphasizes holistic well being. He regularly shares public fitness videos, often doing rigorous compound workouts to inspire others. And this part reminds me of a book called Discipline Equals Freedom. Only those who have cultivated discipline they are able to gain freedom in many ways. Intellect and mentorship. Transitioning from roles such as COMD for Bharti Airtel and country head of SoftBank India, he effectively leverages his background in law, business, HR to mentor young entrepreneurs and teach leadership strategies globally. Values and introspection. Grounded in traditional values, he is known to read chapters from Ramayana and Gita daily. The practice and practices daily self correction to continuously refine his character. Strategic excellence. In the interviews and discussion, he focuses on three pillars: consumer centric product design, sustainable profit models, and high quality corporate governance. Prefix and superlative adjectives can't best describe his vision, impact, and legacy. He's a benchmark of moonshot vision, paradigm of impact, and a role model of excellence. No doubt, he is a living legend and is our guest today for this episode of Journey of Legends. No more guesses. He's one and only Manoj Kohli, the erstwhile country head of SoftBank India, CEO Managing Director of Bharti Airtel, CEO and Executive Director of Escorts Limited, CEO and Vice President of DCM Shriram, and list can go on. Thank you, Manoj, for joining for today's conversation.
My pleasure, Himanshu, but you exaggerated so many things.
I spoke the truth with utmost authenticity. I don't have to exaggerate. Yeah. So, what would you consider as your greatest gifts in this life? Let's begin from there.
No, I think the greatest gift of life is that you wake up every day, God helps you, and then you contribute something every day. I think there can't be a bigger gift than that. And if you're healthy, then the gift is even bigger. And but to me personally, my family uh, is the biggest gift because all my values, all my ethics, everything I do, my personality, my behavior is nurturing I got from my parents and my family. So if you have this fantastic gift, nothing can pull you down. So that gift will be with you every moment of life.
Well said. Waking up, and that too with a purpose, and also gratitude to the people that contributed to who we are. In a way, you create a little ecosystem of your own, which is family. How did you manage so many successful transitions effectively? And if I may ask, what would be your mentoring mantras for those who wish to borrow a clue I'm not saying they would like to follow a similar path, but they wish to borrow a clue from your path. What could that be?
So let me share my own personal
Yes,
ethos. My ethos is constant learning, constant renewal, and constant impact. Because I believe without constant learning, you will be obsolete sooner than later. Without constant renewal, you will not be relevant. And without constant impact, I mean, your learning and renewal has no value because that has to lead to a positive impact to society. So this is what my personal ethos is. And I believe in this ethos. And if you place this ethos in the midst of today's global environment, then transitions should be expected because the world is moving at a huge pace.
yes,
Maybe 10 years back, 20 years back, it was slower, but today it is at a Mach 5, Mach 6, I don't know what to call it. It is moving at that Mach speed, and you will understand more because you come from military background. That speed will only go up in the next 10 to 20 years because this is the era of technologies, and technology impact in the next 10 years will be more than last 100 years. So clearly, my request to young entrepreneurs and young professionals is to always take a long-term view. First, take a long-term view.
yes,
You define your goal. That's most important because once the goal, a long-term goal is defined, then all your decisions and actions are consistent through that period. You can't be distracted. And today, distractions are so
huge.
many, so many. So if you don't want to be distracted, all your decisions and actions are well aligned to that goal, then it's important to be long term. And transitions become smooth and seamless. The second thing is inclusivity. Transitions should be team transitions. It can't be a personal transition. Yes, it starts with a personal renewal. Like I said, my ethos is personal renewal, and I renew myself every day. As I pray in the morning, I come out of my temple a new person, maybe a better person. So that is individual, but that's not enough. More important is a team support to the goal, team defining the goal with great amount of inclusivity and alignment. Then transitions become easier and smoother. Because fundamentally, transitions can be painful and are painful in real life. But objective is to mitigate the pain. And then that can only happen through alignment. Third thing is that when you initiate the transition, it has to be on a mission mode. It has to be on a project mode. Very precise milestones, very precise measurements, very precise who will do what in terms of responsibility, dates, especially the partner ecosystem.
Yes,
Employees are important, but I think partner ecosystem is equally important. I remember in Airtel, we used to include Ericsson, Nokia, IBM, and scores of other partners as a part of our star team. They were not outsiders. They were part of our team, part of our strategy, part of our execution. So if you do that, include them in the project planning, then your execution becomes far smoother, far more spontaneous because they know the strategy, they know the story, they know the long-term goal. And because of that alignment, they will definitely contribute more than normal. The other thing which you can do as young entrepreneur or a professional is celebrate each milestone. Because if you don't celebrate, people won't feel motivated. People won't feel
Yes.
passionate. So I'll tell you, I used to travel 15, 20 days a month at the risk of my divorce to be with teams all over the world in 20 countries to celebrate small successes, big successes, all kinds of successes, and be with the consumer, be with the employees, celebrate, call their families, give rewards, recognitions, dance with them, eat with them, drink with them. So they feel that this is my family. I am Airtel. I am Lenskart. I am Zomato. I am delivery. I am Policy Bazaar. Whatever, wherever I'm working. Because if the employee and the partner doesn't symbolically feel the brand internally, then he or she will not contribute his or her best. And again, constant tracking of that mission mode. Constant means daily, weekly, whatever. And so that you measure the success. Because success without measurement has no meaning. And then once one transition is over, sunset that transition. That this is
Yes.
over and we have succeeded as a team, as a company, and it's kudos to all the team members, and then initiate another sunrise of a new transition. Because transitions are constant. You can't say I'll do transition once a year. A lot of people used to tell me when I was the CEO that, Manoj, you restructure too fast. I said, everything is restructuring. Government is restructuring. Technologies are restructuring. Consumers' mind are restructuring. How can we be static? If we are static, then we'll be irrelevant sooner than later. So a sunset will happen of the old transition, and a sunrise will happen of a new transition. So that's how I see successful transitions being undertaken effectively.
Thank you. Very well said. As you are sharing, there are some triggers that keep coming. So three things crossed my mind. One is a very global leader. He uses lifelong learning, continuous improvement. So that's what resonated well. He spent a lot of time in Africa, and one of my clients is based in Angola. And I've been running a journey for them. So on Thursday, there was a final session on decision making. So just to get them going and moving, I asked a simple question. What can you learn and teach from a simple story in life? Before you go to concepts and deep, give me an example. You can pick a movie, you can pick a sports thing. So one guy said, I can learn and teach many things from my famous and favorite movie, Top Gun. So what is that one thing? The focus on landing safely. You can take off, but you must learn to land safely also. And I bring that part in every operation project that we do. Then purpose guides us, mission drives us, vision is where we aspire to be, and impact is all that matters in the end. This is four simple things I keep bringing in different aspects of learning. And the learning happens through heart. I asked this interesting question. Are decisions made in heart and mind? Everyone says mind. Then I say, did you get married because your mind said your heart? No, there is a silence. Then they realize are actually hard. Then I conclude that decisions are made in heart, rationalized in mind. So they start integrating both left and right brain. That's how they receive it. Tomorrow, in one of my conversations with you, you highlighted the role and impact that your father played on your thinking, processing, and undertaking concrete actions. What was that wisdom that you would like to share with this audience that will view this conversation? To be specific, what are those triggers, perspectives, and parameters that shift the canvas to dream big, start small, act now?
So I'm one of the people whose parents migrated from Pakistan in 1947. So my mother came from Lahore and my father came from Rawalpindi. And millions of people came over in partition time. And they really had nothing in their hand. They came with zero. And they resettled. And they have all excelled. They have all done so well, primarily because they were resilient. They were
Yes.
so resilient. They slept on the footpath. They did whatever small things they could do, including small shop, small jobs, but they rose steadily. And today, across the country, if you analyze their children or grandchildren, they're all prospering, doing very well because they got that cultural ethos of going through a very, very unprecedentedly tough time. Globally, actually, this was the biggest single migration in human history. I don't know why some other migrations are highlighted, but this migration actually, and it was two-way migration. People from India going to Pakistan, Pakistan coming to India.
Both
And
ways.
both ways people lost. And the resilience came up as the biggest quality, as the biggest character in the life, in a successful life. So my father was a simple, very simple guy, and used to call me Yar. He used to treat me like a friend. He used to walk with me, talk with me so much. Very simple. He was a government officer, and I think he invested more than half of his salary into education of three children, myself and my two sisters. And he and my mother taught me 4H. Number one, honesty. That always follow honesty. Be honest. Yes, there'll be urge to be dishonest. Maybe you fall for it sometimes, but it's a very short-term impact, short-term happiness maybe, or benefit, but it will not last longer. If you want a long-term positivity, long-term success and happiness, it's only being honest. Number two, hard work. No shortcut. Hard work includes smart work. It's not only body, it's also mind and body together. And no shortcut. All big things can only be achieved by hard work. If you want a big thing to be achieved, just get down to it. Third, humility. Primarily respect. Respect of the highest personality. You meet a prime minister, you meet a president, you meet huge businessmen, industrialists, respect them. You meet a peon, you meet a worker, construction worker, you meet a lift wala, respect them equally. All of them are human beings. All of them need respect. And that is humility. And fourth H is hunger, which actually comes from the post-partition shock.
Yes.
Be hungry. Every morning, be ready to do more. Every morning. Be ready to do more, contribute more, do better, be better. Don't look back. Be hungry. And I remember in Airtel, we had initiated a slogan that win every day. It came from that hunger. So that got encapsulated by the culture, win every day. So the other thing my father taught me was consistency. That whatever you do, if it is inconsistent, has no value. So for example, like you mentioned fitness, I exercise 1 hour every day since I was born. I don't remember when I started, but since very early times when I was a child. So it's about consistency. You can't have fitness by people saying, oh, I do exercise 3 days a week, 2 days a week, whatever, or sometimes when I'm in a good mood. That's not consistency. And that is not going to make you fit or make you healthy. So just as an example, consistency is a huge character quality in life. And finally, he taught me that be a lighthouse. Be a lighthouse with your good behavior, good character to your employees around you, your team, your partners, your, of course, children, and now grandchildren. So that these qualities which you nurture are being role modeled by you, and as many people around you should learn whatever maximum they can pick up from you. They can learn and also imbibe good character.
Very well articulated and summarized, and I could actually relate to how he must have translated all that wisdom. Few things. There's an analogy of thinking. Me and you have not served together precisely in the same context, but we think together in many ways. Like you spoke about consistency. Consistency, congruence, they all lead to competence and character. Yesterday, in one of my coaching conversation, the coachee said, "Sir, 7 years ago, you taught me something called spiritual discipline. So I encourage people to create their moonshot vision and I invite them, what is your ideological philosophy and spiritual discipline? And I also use a Hindi phrase for that, zanjeeron se jakde hue niyam. So come what may, those cannot be skipped. So we still remember that he said, "Sir, I still follow that ironclad rituals." I said, good. So simple things stay in the minds of people. So moving forward, Manoj, when you feel like reflecting over your huge, long, traverse journey of life, what perspectives reinforce your beliefs and which ones prompt you to think for having taken a different course than the ones that you actually took and why?
Yeah, so 47 years, I've just completed 47 years in the month of May because I started on 1st May 1979. And I'm very eager to do a half century in the next 2-3 years. And and it feels like yesterday. So it is not that it looks long to me. I can conjure every day of these 47 years whenever I would feel like. So a lot of things reinforce your beliefs, and also you think differently. You also train yourself to think differently as the time goes on. But before I share that, I feel that I have zero regret, firstly, on what I did or what I didn't do. Because in that context, in the year 40 years back or 35 years back, or I think I thought rationally and took a rational decision. So frankly, I'll not change because I'm happy with my decision. Now, in retrospect, you can be smarter. A new thing has happened and you feel, but that is retrospect. You can't, at that time, if you think rationally, and I always think rationally, especially with ups and downs coming in, because I always stuck to my core values. So that is what I will like to reinforce in everyone. Stick to the core values, and then you don't have to later regret anything. That is the reinforcement all of us need, because the core values which came from my family or my school, college, maybe my friends early days. Now moving to the different, how I'll think differently. So I feel that whenever I have let some degree of emotion over logic, I made a mistake. Maybe I have failed or partially failed. Therefore, if I have to do things differently, then I will be very, very rational and very logical. And more rational you are, less emotional you are, the better decisions and better actions you take, which are more attuned to long-term success. Because emotion can be negative or harmful. Passion is positive. So a rationality in your mind supported by passion in your actions is the right mix and a positive mix, not emotion.
There must be some systemic process to have given us two brains, left brain and the right brain. One takes care of the logic part. That's why you have intelligence and intuition. Intuition comes from when all the senses are working. Intelligence is only cause and effect, which is mind portion. Some correlation you spoke about moving from Pakistan, your dad, and my mother's father was also in the army. He served in British Army. And my mom spent her childhood in Rawalpindi, Peshawar, some of those places. So a lot of stories we used to listen of those era that time. And that must have played its role in me getting where I've been. Since we are on transitions, I studied geology, did join forces, served in UN and TCS, then founded COSM to be a coach. So I often say there are no rejection, the only redirection for a purpose. And then one guy said, but when do we retire? I said, you never retire, you just reinvent yourself. And that's good enough. All right, so what milestone moments gave you the biggest and most impactful teachable points and perspectives to inspire others?
Before I come to that answer, Himanshu, let me talk about retirement for a sec, because I think you
Sure.
raised a very important point.
Yes.
In my view, retirement happens when you die, not before
So,
that.
yes.
And my grandfather lived till 105 and he worked till 100. My father lived till 90. He worked maybe a month or two before he passed away. And I think that's the only way, because God has given you body and mind to have an active body and active mind. Because the moment it is inactive, you will start declining, and declining sharply. Many government officers I've seen, very senior, very high quality, when they retire, they fall off the cliff. and maybe within 1 or 2 to 3 years, they pass away. So I feel that we should follow God's guidance and keep active. And till whatever time we can do our contribution or impact, we should continue. Anyway, that was just a digression from your main question. So coming to teachable points, there's so many, there are hundreds of them, so I can't cover them, which taught me, and I'm sure will teach many young entrepreneurs and young professionals. I've started writing a book. So next year, that book will give more details of these teachable points. But let me share a few of them. For example, when I started in a sugar mill in Dorala, sugar mill, which was the largest sugar mill of India at that time in 1979, I sat in the weighbridge for 2 weeks. And that 2 weeks, measuring or weighing boogies with sugarcane, full of sugarcane, hundreds and hundreds of them every day, for 8-10 hours a day, was a fantastic experience of how the economy works at the ground. How farmers come with sugarcane, how the sugarcane is weighed, how that is, we crush 10,000 tons per day. How some of them try to bring wet sugarcane for higher weight, and I stop them. And then I go to Panchayat next day of that village to tell the Panchayat that this activity of putting water on sugarcane is not a good idea. It's bad for farmers, bad for the mill. Great learning. This is within a month or two of my starting. And I was 20 then. And my boss told me, because when I stopped many bookies, boss told me, he was the general manager, that, go to all the panchayats, do the diagnostics, go to the root cause, learn from the root cause, and then find a solution, so that it doesn't happen in future. So hugely teachable to me, at least. So I never understood what is root cause. Why should I do root cause? I should stop the bookies, that's all. But actually, it is not stopping the bookie. It is stopping the next many, many years of wrong
Yes.
practice. Second example I would like to give is 85, when there was a gas leak in TCM Chemical Works. This was 1 year after Bhopal, and I was working in that factory of TCM Chemical Works in Delhi, in West Delhi. And this gas leak led to closure of factory, and only after a year or two, Supreme Court opened the factory with some guarantees, safety guarantees. And that period, when the factory was closed, was a big catharsis, but a big learning period. So what happens when your business is closed? Forced closed. What happens? How do you manage business? How do you manage people? How do you manage families? So there were nearly 1,500, 2,000 workers. I was managing them. I was managing going to their homes, meeting their families, trying our best to get the factory reopened from Supreme Court. Huge learning of how to come out of a worst case scenario. Because the worst case scenario hit us. Just like my father came from Pakistan. So just like that happened. And then it took us 18 months or maybe 24 months to reopen. And reopened we did with guarantees, and things slowly came back. But that period was a teachable moment for me. And I gained so much resilience from that. Third, when I worked in Calcutta in 89, in a factory where the unions were strong, we had to reduce the organization by half, meet the government, convince the government that we'll do it in coordination with you, in collaboration with you. And we did that, and business came back. Similarly, Hyderabad, I remember in 92, factories, these are my manufacturing days. because first 15, 16 years I was in manufacturing. So in Hyderabad, we tripled the production manufacturing because, excise duty on air conditioning and refrigeration compressors came down to 60% from 300%. Because in 91, Manmohan Singh government appointed Raja Chalya as a guy who led the reforms of all the taxes and excise duty, etc. And suddenly the market boomed, and we did a 3x on our manufacturing in that factory. And I was the vice president, and there was a general manager. So I was in the assembly shop whole day, whole night. And my general manager Ansari Saab was expert in machine shop, so he was in machine shop whole day, whole night. And we really worked hand in hand with the workers, not only to triple the capacity, triple the manufacturing production, but also maintain good quality, which is very difficult. The moment you triple or double or triple, quality slips. So these were some thing about manufacturing. I can go on because I know you don't have that much time, but I can tell you in one line each. In Kerala in '96 when we started, I was told that you are a North India brand and nobody will know. And we converted everything to Malayali. And we became within a month 65% leadership in the market versus other brand, which was actually a local brand.
Yes.
But that brand made a mistake of being English, and we became Malayali in our call center, in our ads, in our everywhere it was Malayali. So people thought I was the local brand. So I'm saying consumer behavior, consumer's mind, you have to touch on. And then 99, I remember in telecom, a new telecom policy happened where the entire industry was bankrupt. And I worked with the industry, worked with the government. We got a new telecom policy which was unprecedented, from fixed license fee to revenue share. And that was fantastic experience of regulatory impact on the business. Then in 2002, in Airtel, we went to Agra for a strategic 3-day offsite, and we built a new business model for the world in 3 days, where we did the biggest outsourcing in the world. And today that company, Airtel, is 650 million customers, second largest in the world after China Mobile, with a new business model which everyone is trying to copy across the world because they feel this is more efficient or scale up. So many stories of launching in Jammu Kashmir and Northeast, satellite television, rural markets, being profitable in rural markets, managing Africa transition, building the 4th largest solar plant in Kurnool in Andhra, taking care of biggest investment, 15 billion of SoftBank, and highest return in the world, higher than US, China, and Japan for SoftBank. And then finally, after completing 45 years of full-time work, I turned to be a business advisor and a transformational coach for CEOs and founders and funds and multinationals. So many, working with so many companies, Zomato, Lenskart, SEW, Adobe, funds like Partners Group, Lightrock, so many of them. And this is so many teachable moments, which you will see in my book by next year.
Wish you all the best for your book, and it's going to be a very interesting book to read because whatever you're going to write there, it will come out from pure authenticity.
Good.
So when something comes from authentic expression, people can correlate to that. When we started this today's conversation with the line, what if the hindsight wisdom is available as a foresight? It is these conversations which can tell others also, oh, here is something similar to which I'm not paying attention to. When I reflect of teachable points in my life, first and foremost in the first month, somebody asked and then said, he asked, what is leadership? And I gave some mumbo jumbo and he said, no, no, no. Leadership is a privilege, choice, and responsibility. Not everyone gets that, so it's a privilege. With privilege comes the choice. With choice, now you're responsible. So that's the one thing. Second, when I was still a young captain, there was some goof up in the train demand for our tanks to move from place A to B for firing. By mistake, the train demand was for 18th October, but the communication read 18th November. Now you can imagine 1,000 soldiers getting a news, we can't be home at Diwali. So when the commanding officer said, he first asked the second in command, he said, okay, I'll try. He didn't go anywhere. Next day again he asked, is there anyone who can do something about it? Very sheepishly I raised my hand. I said, yes, what will you do? I said, I'll go to DRM office. Station master can't do anything. Railways are organized around 4 and 5 divisions. The only person who can do is a DRM, Divisional Railway Manager. I said, sure. He liked the courage that among 28 of us, one of the youngest officer is making an attempt. Then he said, suppose you're able to get the train, what do you need? I said, no, sir, I don't need train. If people can go and celebrate Diwali at home, that's good happiness. He said, no, no, Commandant is asking. I said, okay, if you're so generous, give me 15 days of furlough. No leave accounted for. I'll go home, visit my parents and all. I went, is there anything? I said, I like to drive in your open Jeep. It's a very glamorous black color Jeep. Because when I want to make an entry in DRM office, it must leave a stature remark. Went there, had a great conversation with the DRM. And he said, okay, you have come all the way. We'll have to go to the office. I said, sure. He said, let me get my car. I said, would you like to have the thrill of driving this open Jeep? He said, can I? You know, boys love toys. He's a very senior seasoned guy, but he came and sat like a someone who's been driving that for years. He drove, we came to the office. Details matter. He said, by any chance, do you know what you need? I said, yes, I have the details. Then he called his DOM, Divisional Operating Manager. He said, this young officer of Indian Army has come all the way. It was from Babina to Jhansi, and we need to help him out. And he said, come, it will take some time. 2.5 hours, I was sitting in his office. We were discussing Roger Federer. We were discussing something else. The ability to have right conversation intelligence matters. At 8:45, DOM came and said, by 17th, we'll have the train at the station. He said, see, Captain, your job is done. Is there anything else that you want from me? I said, day after tomorrow, we're going to have our campfire on the dunes, barbecue, some music. If by any chance you wish to feel like you will be our chief guest. He said, can I? Humor also matters. I said, one condition, sir. Mrs. Shah is also most welcome, his wife. Oh, he said, that would be awesome. So, this is another courage matters, creativity matters. And what am I going to lose there? At least tried. These are some of the things that I remember when you were describing your milestones and teachable perspective. So many other, I cannot go on today. Today the spotlight is on you, so we'll get the best out of you. So, what approaches, tools, and instruments enable you to get the best out of people that worked under you?
So, I have three mentors in life, and one of the mentors is C.K. Prahlad from Michigan.
Yeah,
And C.K. taught me the concept of core competence,
yes,
which is critical for success in any career, any life. But much before that, I started my career. And within a year or so, I realized that actually people is my core competence. Or maybe I didn't have that word in mind, which CK taught me later. But that was my first serious observation when I dealt with hundreds and thousands of workers. Because I was at that time IR, looking after IR, industrial relations. Hundreds and thousands of workers, strong trade unions. And that's where I realized that the positive impact of people on your side is unprecedented impact. No other, nothing else can create that positive impact. Now, how did that happen? Or how can this happen through young professionals and young entrepreneurs? One, as you rightly said, authenticity. People are looking for authenticity. That does this guy, this leader, young leader, I was 20, 21 that time, does it does he mean what he says? Does he behave as he says? Does he keep his promises? Does he maintain decorum, respect everyone? If you come out as an authentic self, a grounded self with people, they will love you. And this love is not an official love. This love is more as a person, authentic human being.
yes,
Second is trust. If you build trust initially, and I remember negotiating very hard with unions about productivity improvement, process losses decrease, and unions negotiating hard on their, I think I made promises and kept them in early part of my life. I'm talking of between 20 and 30. Between 20 and 29. 29, I became a general manager and a P&L manager first time. In those 9 years, I knew how to build trust with people by making promises and keeping promises. That's the only way to build trust. Nothing else. It's very simple. You can do whatever. It has to be real life. The
yes,
third thing is care. We have to put thousands and thousands of towers in telecom all over the country, in forests, in highways, in small villages, all kinds of places. And it's a tough job. And you have to do it through the year, including when it's hot in deserts, it's raining in Kerala or Goa, or it's very cold in Kashmir. You have to do it. You can't stop. So, so I remember there was an ex-army guy, Sharma, Captain Sharma, who helped me, but he had an accident. In, I think he was in a small town called Kasaragod, which is north of Kerala and south of
yes,
Karnataka, in that border. He had an accident because it was raining, and I think his jeep skid. And so I helped him to get back. His spinal cord had a problem. I flew him to. I was ready to fly. I took him to Kochi first, and then best hospital, best doctor. I was ready to fly him to Singapore, Delhi, Bombay, wherever. I flew his wife immediately next morning at 6 o'clock. Everything in the next 2, 3 months was done. He was back on his feet. He could walk, but he could not travel too much, which is okay. So I gave him an office job. So even today, when he retired long back, and he's passed away now, his wife calls me every year on the day of accident that, my husband came back because of you. And by the way, 2, 3 months back, I got a wedding card from a trade union leader of Dorala for his grandchild. So, real care of people. You have to care for people. You have to respect people. You have to show leadership, genuine leadership to people through participation, through picking up low people's ideas, picking up their advice, picking up, consulting them constantly. It has to be participation. It can't be that I'm the boss and I'll decide. And through helping them in innovation, people help you in great ideas, great innovations. And therefore, leaders have to spend a lot of time with customers, with employees, with partners. And that is what 90% of my time was, the time spent with them. For example, there was a dealer in Shillong, and I gave him a challenge. And I remember I came back and I forgot. And then after 2 months, I get a call from him. You remember you gave me a challenge, I've achieved it after 2 months. So, and in Africa, I remember 55 nationalities worked with me. I had to speak French. Fortunately, I learned French in school, so I could speak French. 8 of those countries were French, Francophone countries. And I launched so many new things. I launched Tower Company, Airtel Money, for example. Our acquisition was of Africa was about 10.7 billion. Airtel Money, which was launched at zero at that time, from zero in 11, I think 2011, is today as big as that value. So similarly in SoftBank, as a leader, I got best out of people because I focused on three big things: P&L, cash flow, and good governance. And I constantly did that. Everyone across the world, SoftBank family, said, this guy talks of only those three things. I said, but that is the real business. If you don't do if you're not profitable, if the profit doesn't show up in cash flow, and if you don't have good governance, which means you do zero related party transactions, how will you succeed in business for the long term? So I think you get best out of people when you are what you are and give them best support in their own success. And once they succeed, their really whole life, they never forget. So I met somebody on Miami airport, I remember last year. And this young lady ran towards me and I didn't recognize her. And she said, don't you remember you had come to Bhubaneswar and you gave me an award and you said something to me, it changed my life. I said, no, frankly, maybe I'm getting old, so I didn't remember. But I said, maybe I said something. She said, no, she did. So I'm saying the positive impact you can create in the lives of people is a tremendous reward to good leadership.
You started with C.K. Prahlad, and I remember how many times different people, in a way, they influence which can create a big impact. One of the tools that I use is basically derived from a book by Bill George, who wrote the book Discover Your True North. The essence of the book is find your leadership from your own life story. So I created an exercise where I invite people to write 25 questions. It's like high points, low points, what did you learn out of that? And people find that hugely valuable, that exercise. So I remember Bill for that. He was CEO of Medtronic, then went to teach leadership at Harvard Business School. You spoke about trust and you used the word promise. Trust is built when small promises are kept. So that means what we say, what we do, it matters to people. Respect is an outcome of care. And if I may have a little perspective to add, is three words: care, fair, and dare. You first offer care, you be fair to people, then you can make them dare also for anything new that we want to achieve. And best companies and great leaders achieve big things when they do few things exceedingly well. The question is finding which are those three things that only I can do exceedingly well. So I encourage people to ask this question: what is your native genius? What do you think you can do very well? And that triggers them to people to think, oh, I think this is my native genius. But they're not using it effectively. Then now I'll start using that. So thank you for sharing these aspects about uh, instruments, tools to get the best out of people. We are basically, there are three areas: past, current, and future. And Vijay Govindarajan wrote a wonderful book also, Three Box Solution. Box on managing current, box two selectively forgetting past, and box three creating future. What was your approach of finding seeds of inspiration for envisioning future and triggers for action for making that future come alive?
Okay, let me tell you first about my some bad habits.
Yeah.
Firstly, I have a bad habit to forget the past. I've trained myself. I remember positive, happy memories of the past, but otherwise, I don't remember. I focus on this moment when I'm with you, and I focus on creating tomorrow, shaping a better tomorrow. That is 90% of my mind. 10% is happy memories of past. So that helps me build a strategic mindset. I feel because strategy has to come from the future of technologies, future of consumer behavior, future of global trends, future of regulatory trends, future of capital trends. This is what will happen tomorrow. And that's why you need a strategic mindset to forecast that or predict that as reasonably accurately so that you can take the right decisions. And I feel that's where I have always focused. My highest focus always was because I was very inspired by consumer behavior changes. For example, let's take this specific change. Launch of Blinkit. I remember talking to LB, who's the founder of Blinkit, for many hours, not once, many times, that how can 10-minute delivery be executed profitably? So we went through so many discussions on consumer behavior, on Gen Z consumer. The Gen Z consumer is not like our generation where we used to plan a long list of monthly ration we needed. Gen Z consumer, while brushing the teeth, finds that toothpaste is over. It's finished. If you don't have a new toothpaste, you can't brush your teeth. So he or she orders toothpaste. That time, within 10 minutes, she gets a toothpaste and she brushes the teeth. This is a big consumer behavior change, which was caught by Blinkit. Same applies to Lenskart. Same applies to, these are consumer behavior changes which are caught by various founders and their teams and converted into good business. For example, Lenskart, they use AI to see the face and recommend 5 frames which suit your face, the configuration of your face. Maybe earlier you were wearing specs which was not suitable for your face. Now this has never happened because you buy specs which you like. I mean, whether it's right for your face or not, you never think like that. But you like it. Maybe the price is good. Maybe the material is good. So the point I'm making is these are my seeds of inspiration for envisioning the future. And whether it was the compressors when I did quiet compressors. It was the name of the compressor was AW, so AWQ, quiet, because I found that the homes here are next to each other, so compressors make too much noise. But my competition had a quieter compressor, so I launched this AWQ where R&D and sales guys became a team, and they found out what level of dB is customer comfortable with, and it should be 1 dB, 2 dB lower than competition. So we did that. And within a year, we got leaders. We became leaders in the market. Well, customers loved it. They said, not only you are efficient, but also you are quiet. You know, same thing applied to mobile phone versus landline. Earlier, landline was the mantra, or some consultant gave a report that India will have 50,000 landlines. And today we have 1.4 billion mobile. And that trigger happened early on when CPP happened, when free incoming happened. The moment it was free incoming, customers loved it. They said, fine, I'll not pay for incoming, but if incoming is free, I love it. Same applies to satellite TV. I mean, those days we had cable TVs. When satellite TV came, it became a big rage. And we did a great job in installing and becoming Airtel TV, becoming a leader across the country. Then we built a tower company, which is the largest tower company in the world, and created huge new value. Then now I'm creating a round-the-clock renewable energy, which is solar, wind, and battery, round the clock. The moment, and it is happening, it's around 5 rupees. The moment this maybe becomes 4 rupees or even lower in the next year or two, when the battery cost comes down, the party is over for coal, etc., because solar and wind are renewable energies, zero pollution. Then I'm working on many technologies like robotics, like drones. So I'm just saying, these are my seeds of inspiration for envisioning the future, changing the future, transforming businesses, transforming people. And that's the most gratifying thing you can do.
Your stories and the way of narrating them make things absolutely clear. What I'm picking up from this part is context matters. Those who can appreciate and envisage the context, they can come up with the intent also. To make that intent on ground, you need content. So context, intent, and content are the ways to actually keep revisiting. We briefly spoke about past. One thing which I relate to is past is a place of reference, not residence. You can't reside there. You can borrow reference from good memories just to pep yourself. That's good enough. Very well expressed that. So, the real test of leadership is rooted in functional effectiveness in crisis. And a part of that effectiveness comes from the role and support of the family. You partly answered that question, but this being the last question of today's episode, I'll invite you to share what did you draw from your family and how did that reciprocate? How did you reciprocate that treasure back to that? What can mentees derive from these insights and experiences?
So I would like to first share with all the young colleagues that, you will have a lot of ups and downs in life. And when you're up, you will enjoy it. And when you're down, you need your family. Of course, in up also you need your family because you enjoy with the family. But especially when you're down, you need people whom you trust. And family support, in my view, is most critical. Whether it's parents, your siblings, your life partner, your children, your grandchildren, all of them. Because each of them inspires you. Each of them loves you unconditionally. And especially during downs, because they will help you keep your willpower, keep your resilience, build your resilience. And your faith in your values and strengths actually will grow. And your consistent trust and faith in the family will actually be reciprocated very, very well. I mean, at least in my case, I can say my family has been rock solid behind me. Equally important are some close friends. You may have some close friends of school and college. Very, very important. Because they don't know you as a CEO or whatever. They know you as the same guy in school or college. But in addition to family and health, I feel family and friends, I feel good health has to be all pervasive. Because if you don't maintain good health and high fitness, then you will struggle. Because to have solid stamina and sustain hard work, sustain positive energy for the long term, and sustain high performance for the long term, you need this combo. You need family support, you need friends support, and you need great fitness. All these will help you recover, not only recover, but next day morning stand up and start running after every up and down you face.
Very well said, Manoj. Thank you for sharing your really insightful thoughts, profound perspectives, but in a simple manner. And most importantly, inspiring triggers. Viewers of this conversation will find tremendous and immense value in this conversation. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
My pleasure, Himanshu. You're a great friend.
Thank you. Pleasure to have this conversation, and we'll have the second one in few days from now.
Look forward. Look
Have
forward.
a good day.
Thank you. All the best. Bye.
Bye bye.